Coming up on today's show.
We all spend so much time in our car that it almost feels like a second home.
Now, you're a professional organizer. I'm sure you have a system or you have steps or you have... How are we going to go about organizing our car?
First, the best way to start initially, if your car's a disaster like most of us are, you're going to need to do a big declutter.
Organizing your car today on Keeping You Organized. Hello, welcome to Keeping You Organized. I am so pumped up about this particular podcast because getting my car organized is a challenge for me. So I am going to be taking a lot of notes. Of course, you can always get our notes on the podcast page too, but we are going to really just kind of go from front to back in the car. And we're going to bring on Angie Hike from, Angie, I forgot the name of your organizing company. What is it?
That's all right, ShipShape Solutions.
That's right, because I remember from the last podcast trying to pronounce that. It's a lot, that's a mouthful, but anyway.
Yes, it is.
And maybe it should be Car Shape Solutions after the show today. I don't know. So, but anyway, let's talk about, why do you want to talk about organizing your car? I mean, typically professional organizers are either in homes or offices.
Yes, but you know, we all spend so much time in our car that it almost feels like a second home. So keeping it organized kind of makes sense when you think about how much time you spend in there.
Right. Well, some people, it is actually their first home. I mean, it's amazing how many people actually are, you know, I guess they would call homeless because they live in their cars either, you know, at these overnight gas station kinds of places. But we're not going to get quite into that whole angle of what this is all about. But yes, people do. And people also like to use their car as like a storage locker too sometimes, don't they?
Yes, and we're going to talk about that,
Yeah.
whether or not that's a good idea.
No, yeah, I'm sure. We have so much to cover here. So do you want to give us any overall kind of themes here before we start, or should we just dig right into the first part of the car?
Sure, I would love to. So I think the overall goals when we talk about organizing our car is we want to keep it decluttered and looking neat, so that the time that you spend in your car is more enjoyable and save you the embarrassment of saying, no, actually, I'd rather you not ride in here because my car's a mess. And then the other huge goal of organizing your car is to make it safer. And this is one of those areas where the organizing is so key to safety, because you need to be as free from distraction as possible. And if you don't have what you need within reach and you decide to reach for something, you know, you could be headed for a wreck. So
Right.
it's not just looks and getting to what you need, but staying safe.
Awesome. Okay, so now you're a professional organizer. I'm sure you have a system or you have steps or you have... How are we going to go about organizing our car?
Well, you know, it's just like any area, anything that I'm organizing, whether it's a pantry or files or my calendar or whatever, I use the same steps. I always do: reduce, arrange, and maintain. So it's the same kind of thing: reducing, arranging, maintaining. You're going to start the best way to start initially, if your car's a disaster like most of us are, you're going to need to do a big declutter in the beginning.
Okay, how do we go about decluttering our car then? I guess that maybe that's not as hard as it sounds, but we kind of, you know, we don't want to be overwhelmed that this project is going to be so hard that we can't deal with it. So,
well, I would ideally set aside a block of time. If you have a block of time, I would pull everything out and take a hard look at each thing, make everything earn its spot in your car. Right. You really don't need to use, some people do consider their car like a mobile storage unit. And while there are a lot of things that it's good to have in there, that it's handy to have in there, ultimately you want it to be as comfortable as possible. So I think it's great to empty everything and then think really hard about what you're going to put back in. Now, if you don't have that amount of time, then you can do it in small chunks. You can do an area at a time, you know, the main interior. Don't forget about, there's some places you might forget: the glove box, the trunk, the console. Oh, those side door pockets, they are magnets for trash.
Oh yeah.
All the visor, a lot of stuff will get stuck there. The console, all those little holes, what used to be built-in ashtray small holders. So don't neglect any of those spaces when you're decluttering.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about my car is all those napkins from Chipotle that are in my,
Yes.
So yeah, you want to have them in there because, I mean, many times you say, oh, I spilled something. Here, grab a napkin in the glove box, right? But boy, that pile gets pretty big.
Exactly. And you
So,
think, boy, how much would you have to spill to use all those napkins?
right.
You could recycle those or take some of those inside to use. So yeah, that
Yeah.
initial declutter is important.
Yeah. So, and I would imagine, you want to have, kind of like if you were decluttering in home, you might want to have a box or a container for things you might give away
Yes.
or put somewhere else in the house. And you may want to have a trash can or a big garbage bag to take care of the garbage right there so you don't have to keep going in and out of the car.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, a trash can, potentially a recycle because there's going to be a lot of napkins and paper, and some kind of a container for things that really belong elsewhere in the house would be good. So you can just put that all in one container without stopping and going back and forth and back and forth. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, where should we start? We should start up at the front of the car and kind of work our way backwards. Let's go into these little areas because I know when you organize in a home, you might do room by room, right? So I guess space by space in a car. What's the first thing we should tackle?
Yeah. So one thing that I didn't even think about, people put a lot of stuff, attach it to the visor that pulls down. I don't actually have anything there, but there are some ways you can attach things like sunglasses, Kleenex, other small things. So you want to check there. Decide if that's a space that you want to use. It does kind of stay hidden, but then again, you don't want it to be too junky or else you pull it down, you're going to have a lot of stuff flying out at you.
Right.
So that's a very small space. Then going back, I would say the glove compartment is next. And things do tend to get kind of crammed in there and pushed in there because it's a quick and easy place to do.
It's kind of like your junk drawer in your kitchen, it's kind of the catch-all for everything.
Exactly, yeah. So here's some things that I think are good to put in there. I think it's good to have your owner's manual, your proof of insurance and registration. Some gloves in the glove box are not a bad idea. Maybe a notepad and a pen. You never know when you're going to need something. Tire gauge is almost always in there. Some optional things, you could have the little fuses for the vehicle lights. Those things are tiny and they go out often. You might consider a flashlight, hand sanitizer, some wipes. Now, some of this may not fit and it may end up in the trunk, but those are just some possibilities.
Right.
Also in the front, a charging cord for your phone. I tend to just keep mine plugged in all the time.
Yep.
And I charge my phone while I'm driving pretty much all the time because why not? It's right there and it's a good time to do it.
Right. I'm still intrigued by how they came up with the term glove box. I'm just picturing the olden days with like long white gloves or something. And then when you're ready to drive, you put them in the, I don't know. Do you know anything about the history of the name glove box?
No, I don't. I'm imagining it probably is because that's where people put their gloves. But yeah, I don't know for sure.
I'm sure we can find that on Wikipedia or something like
Yes.
that. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll keep moving back in the car a little bit, but right now we've kind of covered the visor and the glove box. We have much more to do. We're with Angie Hike from Ship Shape Solutions, and we'll be right back. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about organizing your car, all the things that you need to do to make that space in that car. I don't even know how many square feet your car is, but it's not huge, but boy, it can sure get cluttered and disorganized. And we have Angie.
Oh, yes, it can.
Angie Hike from Ship Shape Solution. And Angie, so before the break, we talked about the visor and we talked about the glove box. We're still up at the front of the car. What else up in that front do we have to take into consideration?
All right, so let's talk about the front seat area. And the thing that we definitely need to talk about is where your cell phone's going to be. This is a huge safety issue. I kind of go back and forth between my cell phone should be really handy if I need it, but then again, I should not be on it when I'm in my car. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of more of a time organizing thing, but I think before you start out, you should go ahead and set your GPS if you're needing directions to somewhere. If you're going to be listening to something, you need to go ahead and set that too. Choose your music, or I totally recommend podcasts, and Keeping You Organized by Smead is my choice.
That would be
but
great.
Go ahead and get all that set up. If you're going to be potentially touching your phone, have it handy. Better yet, use a hands-free system, or better than that, even is just to decide that I don't touch my phone when I'm driving, just from a safety perspective.
Well, I know a lot of states, including just recently here in Minnesota, they passed a law that coming up in August, you have to do hands-free. So you can't even do your GPS or any of that without, it has to be voice activated, or you have to do it before you start driving, which I think is a good thing. I think it is a safety thing where so many accidents are caused. It doesn't take long to be distracted either. So
definitely.
People are probably going to see more and more of that, I think, across the country too, as more states adopt that.
And I love that the CarPlay system or whatever, where I can just say, give me directions to so-and-so, or text my husband or whatever. Right. As much as possible, I think it's good to not use any of that, but sometimes you just need to. And so hands-free is best.
Right. Now, when I also think about front seat, I think a lot about like food items that seem to be left around and things like that. I'm sure most of that is just clear it out and throw it away. But what do we have to keep into consideration when we talk about stuff like that?
Well, for the driver, of course, you want any drinks or snacks to be super handy. I tend to carry crackers around in my car all the time. I have a real issue with hanger when I'm hungry and I'm irritable.
Yes.
So if I'm going to be needing that, then I need to make sure that's safe, or going to need to have the drinks and the snacks handy. Another thing we tend to need handy, Kleenex. Like right now, it's allergy season, so I need those to be super handy. A place for coins, or the coins if you're going to be going through drive-through, your money, that kind of thing. You have to keep in mind too, like if you're going to be going through drive-through or getting something out of your purse needs to be really close, and you might need to actually, if you're going to put it in the front passenger seat, you might need to actually attach it to there, because, you move around, your purse flies on the floor, and then again, you might be tempted to reach down while you're driving, and we don't want that to happen.
Right. Well, I feel like we're on a road trip here, and we're kind of running out of time for this episode, but I know we have a lot. We haven't even made it to the back part of the car yet. So are you willing to come back next time and finish this up with the rest of the car?
Yes, I would love to.
Awesome. Well, before we go, let people know the kinds of services you offer and how they can get a hold of you.
Yes, so my website is shipshape.solutions. Email Angie at shipshape.solutions. And I do mostly residential and some corporate organizing in East Tennessee, the Tri-Cities, Kingsport, Johnson City, and Bristol.
Awesome. Well, great, Angie. I can't wait to get back so we can get the rest of this car going, because, it's travel season and people are going on trips, and even just in general, we need to keep that car clean and organized. So, folks, come back next time for part 2 of this podcast right here on Keeping You Organized.